Let's take some time to learn about interfaces and shortcuts. Last time we briefly talked about Blender and motion graphics, and I introduced a few reference sites worth consulting when studying motion graphics. Starting from this session, we'll officially begin with Blender. Before that, you should probably download it first, right? To download, it's much simpler than other tools that require login or a license. Just type Blender in the search engine, and if you search, the first thing you'll notice when you enter the Blender Foundation's website is the Blender download link. Enter here. Click on the Download Blender button for the specified details. And if there are any here, if your system does not match, please enter the gray box below. Pick the version that's right for you. Most Windows PC users will probably just need to download this. When I lecture from now on, you'll be using Blender 3.1. But anything above 3.0 is fine according to the curriculum. If you don't have any issues and still want to match my version, go to these release notes. Clicking on version 3.1 will bring it up. I think you can download it from the link. Assuming you have a Blender installed, if you run it, you'll see a screen like this. I don't think Blender has a very user-friendly interface. The icons are very intricately and tightly packed, but I will try to explain in detail. This window in the center here is called splash screen. Regarding Blender's version and the Blender files we opened before, and there are some presets ready for the workspace, but it seems like we won't be touching them today. Clicking anywhere outside will make it disappear. First, if we divide the Blender UI into 3 parts, let's call this area the viewport.
Here
Online live
with
streams.
Photoshop like they use in Adobe. It feels quite similar to the layer system, but it's totally different from a layer. Just what objects are on this screen. You can see it as the part that is being shown. Yes, moving on. If you come down, you'll see the property window like this. Here, we'll discuss the overall scene render settings. For example, what to set for render ending. How will the sampling be set? If you go down here, what the flashback map is and how to set it up, simply put, frame rate or frame range refers to how you will set it. Essentially, think of the frame range as the length of the video. And these colorful things down here, now for the selected object, position values, or you can modify or transform all properties applied to this object, such as rotation or size values. You can think of it as a cam, and if you come down here, this might be familiar to many of you. Think of it as the timeline found in typical video editing software. Blender is really convenient for customizing the UI to suit your needs. For example, when you hover over the borders of these areas with your mouse, there is a mouse shape like this. You can see the UI expand and contract as you drag when it appears. If you look at the left corner here, you'll see something called editor type. If you click here and feel the need for a graph editor, you can select it and use it. If you feel the need for a shader editor, just press it. You can also edit the shader. I'll explain in detail as we proceed with the lecture. Well, I've talked about the overall UI. Now let's see how to control the viewports. Click the wheel button in the middle of the mouse and drag it. And if you press Ctrl and then drag with the wheel pressed, you can zoom in and out. Another way to zoom in and out is just zoom in and out by rolling the wheel up and down. And if you hold down Shift and drag the wheel, you can move that port. Next, let's try manipulating the cube in the middle here. I'll load a few basic objects and move them. It's fine to use the buttons next to you to make changes, but let's try using a shortcut for a simpler method. First, there are two ways to move shortcuts. Let's first take a look at moving from the first one. Press G and move the mouse. The object will follow the mouse. If you want to move it exactly to the XYZ direction, use the X on the keyboard. Press the Y, Z keys to control it. And easy to remember shortcuts are set for each axis. Besides movement, size and rotation are under scales S. Use the R shortcut for rotation. If you click, it will be cancelled, and you can also cancel here with X. Oh, it's allowing you to control each axis. Another way is to press Shift Space. The menus that were next to you appear near the mouse. You can quickly access it without having to move the mouse to the side. Pressing the shortcut does this. Shortcuts for each tool will appear next to it, suitable for each situation.
Please press the key.
You just need to release it.
So if you want to move it concisely, press Ctrl Shift G. You can move like this. And if you click this white circle and control it, you can control it just like following the mouse earlier. One of Blender's features includes a bug where shortcuts don't work if the language settings are set to Korean. So if the shortcut doesn't work, try pressing the welcome key and then use the shortcut again, and it'll most likely work. Shift spaces.
So, by doing this, you set it to the axis direction earlier, right?
Oh, sorry. It can open, and for rotation, press Shift Space R like this. The use of shortcuts varies by situation, so it should be fine to use them as appropriate. Now, let's move on to creating and placing another object. You can create an object here in the Add tab. There's also this method of retrieval. Pressing Shift A opens the Add tab easily without the need to move the mouse all the way up. From the top mesh here to the UV sphere, I'll take the floor ball. Then this cube will be hidden and not visible. To select a sphere in a situation where the object is hidden, just keep clicking. Clicking like this brings up a cube, but pressing it again selects a sphere. Like I told you before, in this state, press G. I'll place it anywhere for you. And then under the UV sphere, this object too.
Bring it in once.
Let's try matching this up again.
Lastly, this thing up here called the navigation gizmo, from here X, or click X to take a look at the site. And then, after dragging and catching everything like this, objects you don't need to select get caught as well. If you hold down Ctrl and drag, you will come out. In this state, let's raise it up to here based on the y-axis. And finally, press Shift A to lay down a plane and arrange its size appropriately. If you click on Render View in Viewport Shading, it comes out like this. You'll be working on making headphones going forward, so I'd appreciate it if you could move on to that. Come back again. Finally, let's look at how to copy an object, like many other programs. Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V are fine too. By pressing Shift plus D, you can instantly copy and paste to a different location like this. But if you find repeating this too cumbersome, press Shift plus D once to undo, and Shift plus R to redo your actions. You can repeat it